A Lucid View of History, Volume 2, First and Second Generations of War. Or, war is bad, but seriously, give us another option.
Welcome to a Lucid View of History. Thank you for the comments and suggestions. Hang around to the end, see what we do with them. Quick catch up. The purpose of this is to discover how to be magnificent strategists. We have defined strategy, that is, the art and science of employing your resources so that you move to a position where you have more and better choices available. We've agreed with dead people that dead people make great mentors. That gave us our theme, the brilliant dead, the cutting edge. Now, here's why I'm so passionate about this, and it's not just moderately interesting. When I have avoided mistakes and achieved goals, it's nearly always because wise dead people wrote something down, and I listened and applied it. Every technology presentation, we eventually refer to Sun Tzu. Did he say Sun Tzu? Must be one of those thought leaders. We always cut Sun Tzu off just as he's getting started. This time, let's hear the dead mentor out. If you know your enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Do you see how... enemy. Yeah. Don't get hung up on the enemy thing. Let's try it this way. I have a new puppy. Her name is Sasha. If I know myself and know Sasha, I need not fear piddle puddles. If I know myself, but not Sasha, for every successful trip outside, I'll have a puddle inside. If I know neither myself nor Sasha, I better learn how to swim. When you understand these characteristics of strategy, generations, you will have the tools necessary to begin to understand yourself, your partners, and the dynamics between you. All good? Sweet. Now, the 4 generations of war. Well, 2 of the 4 generations. Next episode, we'll do the last 2. I want you to have a vivid picture of the characteristics. So let's get into a time-traveling helicopter and fly over the battlefield. It's sunny, humid. Bugs lazily droop through the air. As you fly over, you see the sun shining off bayonets mounted to muskets. And soldiers, identically uniformed, stand in perfect squares. Red uniforms on the left, blue uniforms on the right. They break their squares and reform into 2 lines, facing each other. One side shoots first, all at the same time. Some fall on the other side. Then those remaining fire back. This is First Generation War. First Generation War sought to create and impose order. The battlefield, the culture, reflects this obsession. Ranks, uniforms, saluting, a distinction between enlisted and officers. Militaries were built by states and nations to fight other states and nations. In the United States, this existed through the Civil War. First generation characteristics in technology? Well, it's pretty easy, isn't it? If not IBM, then who? Stacks of punch cards, orderly lines of computers stretching for miles, top-down instructions, imposition of order. Hang your suit jacket on the back of the office door in case your boss shows up. This one might surprise you, because I bet now you're thinking, well, first generation is old, it's passé, obsolete. But Google is first generation in its characteristics. It's top-down, even in its systems architecture. The first Google Cloud used reclaimed computers, slaved to the controllers. The components didn't matter. Their service to the top-down order did. For most of the history of the world, first-generation characteristics have dominated. If Mark Twain and Solomon are right, it will again. Most of our strategy comes from lessons learned in the first generation. It's not checkers. It's go. How do you work inside a first-generation adhering environment? Mel Gibson's movie, The Patriot, is a wonderful contrast. He fights guerrilla style. He strikes from cover, ambushes, blind sides. It's kind of mean. It's not fair. But he's our hero because the bad guys are so bad. Is that what we would do? The guerrilla fighter played by Mel Gibson sought to stymie the goals of British first-generation war strategy. Important in this discussion, you're not seeking to thwart your company's, your partners, or your peers' goals. Rather, advance them cooperatively. It doesn't matter how that hot startup does it. They're not first gen. And you want to win here in a first gen environment. The levers of influence and success are presented clearly to you. Know your partner, and half your struggle is complete. Now, get back in your helicopter and fly with me. It's dark now, cold. Rain falls in hard, icy sheets. The ground is muddy, wet. Farmland now a storm-tossed mire. As we circle, you see two lines dug into the ground. Soldiers sit in these trenches, every man's gun facing the enemy's line. You hear Christmas music. And the two facing armies come out of their trenches and they meet in the middle. This is the famous Christmas truce. Tomorrow, they'll go back to bombing each other. Tonight, they sing together. Although the term was coined by the U.S. military, second-generation war was developed by the French army in World War I. Like first generation, it imposed order on what was now a disorderly battlefield. The seeds of second-generation strategy were sown in the first and watered by technological advancements. Rifled barrels now permitted extended range, so the focus of second-generation war became attrition, indirect fire, and synchronized assault, infantry, cavalry, aviation. The theme: the artillery conquers, the infantry occupies. In this generation of warfare, obedience trumps initiative. And initiative is feared because it disrupts synchronization. Hey, I bet that will be useful later. If first generation strategy is like Go, second generation, well, that should remind you of chess. Memorize your openings, practice your endgame, copy the masters. Pawns occupy territory, while stronger pieces conquer. In fact, second-generation strategists held strong focus on orders, rules, processes, procedures. Many military strategy books retain their approach and include a school solution, like a textbook answer, for most problems. Land troops via water with no air cover, that's page 237. Interdict supply lines and impinge morale, page 572. Land war in Asia? Well, that's just silly. Everybody knows you don't start land wars in Asia. Second generation war, a little delegation, and a lot of book answers feel to me a lot like the first steps in master data management, an ERP rollout, your first security operations center, an appropriate tool for, hey, we decided to move to the cloud and we're going to start Friday sort of problem. A first generation approach would take too long and be insufficiently responsive. Second generation, though, with its combined arms approach, cross-functional team, and textbook answers, vendor playbooks, architectural building blocks, seem to be our match. Now, these both might seem heavily bureaucratic to you, but remember their key goals. Impose order. Don't give up territory. Grind down the opposition. Win through attrition and indirect fire. If you're in an environment with these characteristics, recognize it. Then recognize what you need to do to win. Next week, third and fourth generations of war. Just as seeds for second were sown during first, third generation's planning was in the roots of the second. Thank you for subscribing and commenting. I mean, if you have. If you haven't, join us. Next week's going to be cool. Until next week, thank you for joining A Lucid View of History.